Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to my February reset and January wrap up video. I have decided to combine these two things together because I love filming my reset videos, but I just felt like I was adding sections in just for the sake of adding sections in when all I want to do is talk to you guys about my goals and my reflections from the previous month, and therefore it didn't really kind of equal out to a full-length video. So I thought to make my January wrap-ups more fun and maybe more people end up watching them is that I'm going to combine the two together. So we're going to sit down, reflect on January, make goals for February, as well as I'm going to take you through my reading journal so far, the things that I enjoyed about my reading journal, things I wish I kind of done better, things I want to change, things I want to keep. So a whole kind of reflection section, rhymed, a reflection section on my reading journal, and I'm going to show you kind of my February spreads and what I'm planning to do in February in terms of my reading. And then we're going to sit down and talk about the books that I read in January, my ratings and quick snapshots of my reviews. I'm going to keep them short and sweet. I said in my planning section of Notion that I want to do 1 sentence reviews of the book, so we're going to try and keep to that. And then finally we'll do a January book haul, because I don't tend to do monthly book hauls because I don't tend to buy enough books to make a whole book haul video every single month. So this is where I'm going to incorporate my kind of book hauls for the month, just in case I only pick up 1 or 2 that I want to share with you but it's not enough for a video. I'm going to put them in here instead. So there's lots to get on with in today's video, so without further ado, grab a cup of tea, grab a blanket, get cozy, and let's reset for the new month. So let's jump into my January wrap up. I'm going to try and keep this as concise as possible. In the month of January, I read a total of 9 books, which I'm so happy about. That spanned across 2,336 pages, equaling out to an average of 75 pages a day, which I think is really good. Like, that's a good average. Like, I tend to average between 50 and 100 pages a day, so 75 is like bang in the middle of that. I read 4 physical books, 1 ebook and 3 audiobooks, and then 1 mixed media book, so a combination of physical and audio. I read 5 romances, 2 contemporaries, 1 fantasy and 1 non-fiction. I didn't rate 1 at all, and then the rest of my ratings was 1 3-star, 2 3.5 stars, and 5 4 stars. I have yet to get a 5-star in 2024, but my current read, I have a feeling, may potentially be my first 5-star of 2024, which I'm very excited about. And then I also DNF'd 2 books in January. I DNF'd The Fortune Men by Nadifa Mohammed, as well as Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. In terms of balancing the books, I read 2 from Audible, 1 from iBooks, and 1 from Scribd. And then I read 5 off my physical TBR, but then I also hauled 9 books. So that's that. We'll get into the books I hauled in a second, but let's quickly do a run through of every single book I read and a 1 sentence review for that book. Because all these books currently have featured in a reading vlog, so if you want to know my full thoughts, then go check out my channel for my weekly reading vlog so far in the month of January, and you'll be able to suss out which book is in which vlog and then find out my full thoughts. The first book I read in 2024 and started off a bang, 4 stars, Heartstopper by Alice Osman. This is volume 5, the latest book in the series, so I'm all up to date, all up to speed, ready for volume 6 and the final volume in this series. This was very cute. I very much enjoyed it. There were some little icky bits about it because this book basically follows the same plot as Nick and Charlie in a novella, which I didn't like because I found Charlie really whiny in it. The same plot happened in this book, so although I enjoyed it, I didn't love it as much as the other graphic novel volumes, and therefore I gave it a 4-star. Next book I tried to read was The Fortune Men by Nadifa Mohammed, at which I gave a DNF at around the page 80 mark. I just couldn't really vibe with the writing style, even though the premise was such an intriguing premise for me. I just couldn't really vibe with the writing style, and I got very lost while trying to read it. This is my 2nd book of the year, and I just wasn't ready to get into a slump so early on, so I gave it a DNF, and this is a hard DNF. I won't be returning to it, and I will be unhauling it. The next book I read was Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zorna. This was an audiobook on Audible for me, so although a book is currently coming off my physical TBR, I did listen to this as an audiobook because I tried to read this last year physically and just couldn't get into it, so very glad I had the audiobook. I enjoyed this. There were some aspects I didn't love as much when Michelle went into her relationship with her father, as well as kind of like her career as a musician and kind of wanting to be a musician and kind of struggling with that side of her life. But what I found the most interesting, and it's the reason why I picked up with this book, was because of her relationship with her mother and kind of how that changed and adapted when her mother got diagnosed with cancer. Those are the bits that I went into the book to read about, and those are the bits in the book when listening to it I found most fascinating. It was really heart-wrenching, it was really difficult to listen to at points, and it just made me so grateful that I can still hug both my parents, and it really made me start saying I love you more to my parents every time I left their presence. So yeah, very much a heart-wrenching story, very much glad I read it, and because it's a non-fiction I didn't rate it. The next book I read because I needed something light-hearted and just easy to read after having listened to a very kind of heart-wrenching story. I picked up Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. This is the third book in Ashley Poston's Once Upon a Con trilogy that she released. This is her YA venture. This is the third book, and after reading this I realised you probably should have read them in order to get kind of the most understanding and the most out of the world development, but I didn't read these in order. I'm going to go back to read Geekerella, which is the first book, in February. But I did read this one. I did enjoy it. I don't necessarily believe that you have to read them in order, but I definitely think you might get more out of them, because I don't think the world was evolved enough in this story for you to fully understand it without having read the previous two books. So I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5 stars. The romance was cute. It was an easy read, nothing to complain about. It was a good book. I then read and finished a series. I finished off the Caraval series with Stephanie Garber by Read Them Finale. Oh my god, that ending, holy moly. Obviously I can't really say too much about this book because it is a third and final book in the series, but this definitely was my second favourite in the series as a whole. First one being Caraval, second one being Finale, and the last, my kind of least favourite, Legendary. This ending just kind of like made the book what it was. It was absolutely incredible. Like, if you read it, like, you know what I'm on about. But I really enjoyed this book, and I'm glad I finished off a series in the first month of the year. I gave it a 4-star. I then attempted to read Phone of Glass by Sarah J Maas, but at the 150 page mark I decided to DNF it because I just really wasn't vibing the book at all. I have a whole vlog dedicated to this book, so I'll link it up above and down below if you're interested into why I DNF'd it. I just couldn't vibe with this book at all, sadly, but also like not so sadly because now I don't have to dedicate my life to a 7-book series, so yay for me. Then I listened to The Charm Offensive by Alison Cockrunch, I want to say is the author's name. This was an audiobook on Scribd. I just had a lot of cleaning to do one weekend while Mark was doing some DIY. I wanted to pick up an audiobook, so I had some company whilst doing all the big chores in the house, so I picked up this one because I'd heard some good things, and it is basically a LGBTQ male-male romance set behind the scenes of a reality TV show. It was a really cute listen. I'm glad I read it. I did kind of really pine for the characters by the end of it, and overall I would recommend this book. I gave it a 3.5 stars. I then randomly got chosen a book off my 2024 priority list by a random spinner wheel, and it picked out The Hen Awards by Adaba Jagura for me. I enjoyed this one. This is a YA kind of sapphic contemporary romance book about two rivals, enemies to lovers, who both set up hen stands at their school, and they both kind of have like a rivalry, and it does cover topics of racism, homophobia, and kind of bullying and being outed, so be wary if you're intrigued. This isn't my favourite Adaba Jagura. My favourite is still Honey and His Guide to Fake Dating, but I enjoyed this book. I gave it a 3.5 stars. And then I finally decided to pick up Ashley Poston's novella, which was part of that Amazon original bundle of romance authors. I've only read Ashley Poston's. I don't have any interest in reading any of the others, but I read With Any Luck by Ashley Poston as an audiobook on my way to work one day, and oh my god, this was like the cutest novella ever. I can't rate novellas any higher than a 4-star because I really don't think you get enough character development, which is one of like my key things in books. In a novella, no matter kind of what a novella is, because novellas are so short. This was only like 41 pages. It was an hour and 11 minutes. I listened to all of it on my commute on 1.5 times speed, and I really enjoyed it. I squealed at moments. I thought Ashley Poston's writing and her kind of like niche of magical realism romance really came through into this novella, and I thought it was like the perfect plot for the amount of pages that she had to write, I guess. Basically, it wasn't ever, she wasn't kind of being too ambitious with what she wanted to try and get across in 40 pages. I thought it was like the perfect amount, and it was a really cute read. I really recommend it if you're interested in it. I gave it a 4-star. And then finally, the last book I read in January was An Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This was my first book club pick for the month of January because I'm partaking this year, or whenever I feel like not wanting to partake anymore. in the Breakfast Book Club run over on Instagram by Emily. This is January's pick. Our discussion is actually this coming Wednesday, so I'm excited to discuss it with everyone because this wasn't my favourite. So I would like to hear why people love this book so much, because I can understand why people would like this book, but for me it just wasn't my vibe. I was really disappointed in it because I had such high expectations, because it really sounded like a book that I'd absolutely love based on like the buzzwords and the plot and the summary, and it just really fell really flat. I didn't really connect ever to the characters. This is the book that I listened to half audio, half physical, and I didn't really enjoy the narrator at all. Maybe that's where I went wrong. The audiobook narrator was Scottish. I don't know whether she was putting on that voice or whether she actually was, and therefore I just couldn't really, I would never imagined Eleanor Oliphant being Scottish, therefore when the narrator was Scottish, I just couldn't connect the two, and overall there was some heartwarming moments in it, but it just wasn't really for me. Trigger warnings for depression, attempted suicide, child abuse, child neglect. It's quite a heavy book, and I don't think people really realise that. And unfortunately this book, the writing style, the plot, it just wasn't for me, so I gave it 3 stars. And those are all the books I read in January. So now we're going to flip through my reading journal. I'm going to kind of show you how my January spreads have turned out, as well as kind of what my February reading spreads are going to look like. We're also going to do like a what I've learned for my first month in my reading journal, as well as like what I want to continue with, what I want to keep, what I want to change, etc. Just kind of like a reflection on my reading journal, because this is the first reading journal I feel like I've properly done in a way that I want to track my reading. So therefore there was a lot of learning curves in January. There's a lot of things I realised actually I really enjoyed doing this bit, but I don't really enjoy doing that bit. So let's just go in and I'll talk you through my spreads, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I'm keeping, what I'm changing, etc. So let's make sure this is in the middle. Perfect. So homepage. I managed to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books in the month of January, which is really exciting. I still don't know what I want to do with this bookcase, whether I want to colour coordinate the spines per month, per genre, per rating. So I'm just going to keep them blank until I've decided, and most likely I will never decide and they will stay blank. But for now, they are as content as they are. I'm happy with it, but when I maybe fill it out a bit more I might want to add some colour into the spines, but currently happy as this spread is. Very excited how it's coming along. The next page is my reading goals. So I managed to tick off a few goals in January. I managed to read 1 fantasy. I DNF'd Throne of Glass, so I couldn't tick off another fantasy for that one. I did complete one of my iBooks book. If you didn't know, one of my reading goals for 2024 is if I read my entire iBooks collection, which is currently sat at 18 unread books, then I might be able to treat myself to a Kindle. So I'm currently keeping track of how many books I read off my iBooks account. I read 1 unknown book, which was the same book that completed this one, which was my Conan Only, and then I haven't finished any of the others. I'm hoping I might be able to complete some more in February, which is really exciting. The page on the right, I was wanting to keep every single box the same colour. However, at night time, sometimes I don't realise what shade I'm pulling out, so they've ended up being a variety of colours, but that's fine. I'll just kind of like randomly colour it in. As long as it's all kind of like in the same pinky purple theme, I'm not too precious about keeping them all the same colour anymore. But I am on track. Like I said, read 9 books, so I'm way ahead of schedule, and I definitely think I'll read over 50 books this year if I don't get into any reading slumps, fingers crossed. Then we're coming on to my pages in pixels, which I'm really super happy how it's coming out. The thing, obviously, I can't change month to month this spread. The only thing I wish I did was not have so many colours, because I do think it looks a little bit chaotic. I just wish I kind of like stuck to one colour theme, so maybe just pinks and purples, maybe just greens and blues. But the fact that I've got like every single colour under the rainbow kind of makes it a little bit chaotic, especially when I read different page amounts per day and I get like a blue, a red, a green, an orange, and I don't kind of like look aesthetically pleasing together. It's my only kind of like downside to this spread, but overall really happy with how it's turning out. Very glad that I'm managing to keep up with it. And yes, I think the only reason I'm keeping up with it is because I'm using a book app called Bookmori, which allows me to just put in at the end of each day what page I'm currently on in the book, and it calculates for me how many pages I've read. So then I'll just go back to that app whenever I need to fill in this tracker. So that's massively helping. I know I'm going to be obsessed with this spread, but obviously I can't really fill it out too much at the minute. I read 9 books in January and also brought 9 books in January, so the bar graph has started, but the line graph hasn't quite started just yet. I haven't read any 5 stars yet, sad. However, on the plus side, I have read 3 off my 2024 TBR, as well as DNFing 1. So technically I'm 4 out of the 14 books that are on my 2024 prior to TBR, only 10 are left, which is really exciting. I did fill in my social media tracker, which I did with you guys in my most recent vlog, so I'll link that up above. We have now gone to see a movie, Mark and I haven't put it in this spread yet, but we did go see Argyle, which was really, really good. Highly recommend it. I just need to do a little doodle for that. We have watched a lot of TV shows such as The Traitors and Mr. Banks versus the Post Office that I need to fill in this spread with, but I haven't done that yet. Unfortunately, I can't start my Walt Disney World countdown quite yet. And then this is what my final spread looked like in January for my dashboard. I absolutely love how this spread came out and wish I did the same for February. But when I set up February spreads, I hadn't completed this spread yet and I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I'm really sad now that my February spread isn't looking exactly the same. But very, very happy with how this spread came out and love all my little doodles. I think they're very accurate to the books I did read, which is really, really exciting. And this is another one where I didn't think I was going to keep it, so I didn't add it to my February spreads, but now filling it out and finishing up, I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. So kind of wish I did keep it in February, but alas, I haven't done so. Maybe I'll bring it back in March. One spread that I'm not continuing on with because I didn't really see them need, because I'm keeping it all in core pile anyway, is this kind of like table of all the books I read, including my DNFs though, to be fair. So that's the only difference with this spread compared to my core pile table, is that on core pile I don't keep my DNFs. In my reading journal I did keep track of my DNFs, so I DNF'd The Fortune Men and I also DNF'd Throne of Glass in January. But overall I don't really see a need for this, so I haven't carried it over into February. And then we come on to all my reviews, and if you've seen one of my weekly vlogs then you'll know that my reviews aren't like your traditional reviews. They don't kind of say what the plot was about in depth, but they kind of just kind of wrap up what I felt during my reading experience, what my environment was like, what Mark was doing at the time, why I read this book, etc. So for example, for Crying in H Mart, my last sentences, I listened to this solely on my commute to and from work. And then for Finale, I was like, I'm obsessed with these characters and both romances. Julian has my heart. Jax was a big part of Finale. I wasn't a massive fan, which makes me wary about Once Upon a Broken Heart series. And for Heartstopper, I was like, binge this volume on a sofa on New Year's Day. Read this across 5 days, mainly in evenings on sofa with Mark while he played Tomb Raider. So I'm kind of keeping track of what Mark is doing in the evenings and stuff while I'm reading as well, which he might be interested in looking back on. And I just kept all the spreads the same. I haven't yet printed out a book cover for With Any Luck by Ashley Poston, but I'm absolutely obsessed with this novella. It was so, so cute. But I just like keeping everything the same, and I'm going to be keeping this spread design the same throughout February as well, because it doesn't really fit with the theme that I did for January, and I just think this was enough space for me to write about each book as well as add the book cover and do my ratings. So I'm going to keep them the same for February. Then this is what my February reading journal spreads have turned out like. Obviously it's Valentine's Day, I want to read a lot of romances, so I kind of went down the love lettering route. And now I started Divine Rivals, which by the way guys, I'm obsessed. I'm actually really happy I've done like a letter theme, because obviously if you've read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, you know that letter writing is a massive, massive part of the plot. So I'm really actually obsessed with the fact that I've done a letter theme for February and that I'm reading Divine Rivals in February, and I'm currently absolutely obsessed with it, hoping to finish it today actually. So this is where my spreads start to differ. I thought I wanted to switch up my dashboard. So just as a reminder, this is what my dashboard looked like in January. I thought I wanted to switch up, so I kept my pages on one and I put my stats on the other side. So I haven't done like my physical book versus ebook versus audiobook, and I haven't done my pie charts, but I have kept my star rating tally, my number of pages and my average number of pages, as well as my best day and worst day. Because I keep track of all my pages that I read each day, I thought it would be interesting to have like a quick snapshot of like maybe on Friday the 9th of February I read like 300 pages, so that was my best day, and my worst day was Friday the 2nd because I only read 12. I thought it'd be quite fun to have like a quick snapshot, so that's something new that I've added for the month of February. I'm going to see if I like it. What I'm sad that I don't have on this spread is my books read, because I loved how they all looked kind of together with my pages read. I just absolutely love and I'm obsessed with how this page turned out, so I'm really sad that I don't have my book cover doodles on the same page as my pages read. But hopefully once I've filled out this spread and I've read all my books and I've done all my doodles, this spread will look just as cute as this little section down here, fingers crossed. Because I have the space, I may even do my star ratings underneath each cover this month. I'm going to see how I go. I didn't have a hauled section in January, and I did haul 9 books, so I thought I'd add a hauled section in, as well as my TBR is slightly bigger, even though it's a smaller month. So I put my TBR to a separate page as well, just because it was bigger. I couldn't see it fitting anywhere on here. And not February spread related, but I have added a spread because in January I kind of felt like I wanted to reread some books. I haven't had time to reread any books yet, but I did decide to just have a little bit of a play around, a bit of a creative freedom day, and just create a spread for the books I would like to reread at some point, including Olive. For the first time, last year was not a year that I read Olive, which makes me very, very sad, so I want to try and get a reread done this year. I also wanted to reread Heartbreak House Share last year, didn't get around to it, and then the last couple of books I've kind of been wanting to reread recently is Anxious People by Frederick Botman and After I Do by Taya Jenkins Reid. So I just thought I'd create a little spread of the books I wanted to reread this year at some point if I have the chance. So those are all my spreads so far in my reading journal. I love how the majority of things have turned out. I'm excited to fill in some of the other spreads I haven't yet. Hopefully I can fill in my 5 stars soon, and Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows will go there and there, fingers crossed. But yeah, so far very, very happy with how my reading journal's turning out, and I'm excited to fill in February spreads and kind of see if maybe I'm wrong about the spreads I've created and I do end up really enjoying them. So I did read 9 books in January, but I also hauled 9 books in January. Some I have already read, some I'm planning on reading very soon, and some I'm currently in the middle of reading. So the first set of books I brought in the month of January, I did a little bit of an Amazon book haul because I wanted to pick up a few books for the books I wanted to read in January. So I picked up An Elephant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman in January. Obviously also read it in January because I needed to read it for my book club and I wanted a physical copy of it. So I hauled it in January, I read it in January, and I'm hauling it in January. The next book in that little order was Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. Obviously, once again, for my hopes of reading it this month, so I brought it in January, read it / DNF'd it in January, and also will be unhauling it in January. And then the last book in that little order I did was These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. I heard incredible things about it, and the way Lucy from Library of Lucy raved about this book when she read it at the end of last year, I believe. It made me like really want to read it, so it'd been on my radar and I decided I'm just going to pick it up because obviously I want to try and get into fantasy more this year. So I picked it up. I haven't read it and I'm definitely not unhauling it yet, so this is the first official book that I brought in January that is staying on my physical TBR. I then had 10 stamps on my Waterstones stamp card, so obviously that means a free £10 to spend on a book. So I picked up Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber because I knew once I'd finished the Caraval series, which I had done by reading finale, then I would finally get around to reading the next kind of like spin-off series, which is the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. So I picked up this one because it was free, and obviously once again I want to get into fantasy this year, so I picked it up. I was hoping to read it in February, but the Instagram gods had other plans for me, so I haven't read it yet, but this is a book that I hauled in January but won't be unhauling anytime soon because I want to read it. I then very cheekily spent quite a lot of money on books because I was in London for Mark's birthday. We so happened to pop into Waterstones and I so happened to come out with 2 books. I don't know what happened. But I came out with Divine Rivals, Dust Jacket only because I'm currently reading this book and absolutely obsessed with it. And I'm so glad whilst I was there, I was like, you know what, this hardback was really hard to come by, so I'm not going to make the same mistake with the sequel just in case I really like the first one. So I picked up the sequel, Ruthless Vows, at the same time as well. Just in case I became obsessed with this one, I needed to have the second book on hand so that it could match. And I'm so glad that I managed to pick up this one as well because I am absolutely obsessed with Divine Rivals. I'm so close to finishing it. I'm going to try and finish it today and I'm going to be jumping straight into this one. The next book I picked up, Chloe kindly sent my way, so I just paid for postage, is Geekerella by Ashley Poston. Obviously I read Bookish and the Beast this past month and I wanted then, after really enjoying that one, to read the other 2 books in the series. I know that Chloe was getting rid of it, so I kind of messaged her and was like, hey, do you mind sending it my way? And she very kindly did. So I now have this one in my physical TBR to read. Oh my god, I just noticed, how cute. So yeah, hoping to read this one in February. It is on my February TBR, so fingers crossed this one won't be on my TBR for too much longer. And then the final 2 books I got, the first one being The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. And this I brought on pre-order. I haven't yet got it in my possession, although I did pre-order the ebook on my iBooks account because I'm planning on reading it in February. It is on my February TBR. So a book that I've brought but I haven't paid for yet, I haven't read yet, and I don't own yet, but I did kind of get it in January, so I put it onto my January book haul. And then the last book I picked up, which I have already read / listened to, was With Any Luck by Ashley Poston. This was a free one because I am part of Amazon Prime, and that book collection was free to any Amazon Prime members, but I'm still adding it because I want to track all the books I've acquired this year, whether I've bought them, didn't buy them, etc, etc. So I did pick this one up and I have already read it. So in total I bought / acquired 9 books in January. I've read 2 of them, currently reading a third, and I'm unhauling 4. The books I'm unhauling this month are Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, Throne of Glass, The Fortune Men, and Crying in H Mart. So I hauled 9, read 9, but unhauling 4. So my TBR, my physical TBR definitely should be smaller than it was at the beginning of the month. Now all the bookish talk is out of the way, it's time to reflect on my January goals and to create some goals for February. As I said in my New Year reset video, I am only setting kind of monthly goals and goals I know that are going to be achievable within the month, so I can really focus and hone in on the things that are important to me, rather than setting year-long goals that I just know aren't really a priority for me in that moment in time. So as a reflection of January, I'm glad I kept it small, I'm glad I kept it concise, and I'm glad I only kept to the goals that were really important to me at that time when I was creating them. So let's quickly reflect on those. My first goal in January was to do the 30-day challenge of spinning every day, which is a goal that I made up myself a couple of years ago. I vlogged it all back then, so I'll link that up above, but I attempted to do it at the beginning of last year in 2023 when I first moved in, but my routine hadn't really stuck yet, and then our shower had to get replaced and I just ended up failing at it. This year I was adamant to do it again, and on the 29th of January I am pleased to say I'm on track to complete it. I have missed 1 day, but just as an FYI, probably TMI, I've been on my period for 26 days. From the 31st of December up until the 27th of January, I've been on my period. The joys. So I have struggled this month, but one thing I have managed to do, bar 1 day, is spin every day. So I'm fucking proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself that I've managed to spin 29 days, if I count the missed day, but I'm just gonna kind of forget about that one. It was a Sunday, it was on my schedule to only do 20 minutes, so I didn't really miss out on that much. I've done every single 45-minute class and I've done every single 30-minute class. I've only missed a 20-minute. So I'm counting that as an absolute massive win. I have spun every single day in January and I'm on track to complete it. I only have 2 more days left to do as filming this, so a tick on that one. I'm so happy, and it's just reignited my love for spin. I absolutely love spinning, and I did have a goal in February to do a different kind of exercise challenge, but I'm switching that up because I don't want to miss out on spin again. I want to try and incorporate spin with a different form of exercise. We'll get onto that in a little bit. My next January goal was to create 1 Instagram reel a week of how much I read the previous week, and I'm pleased to say I'm on track to do that one again. I have technically finished the 4 reels that I wanted to make, having just posted one today from the week of the 22nd to the 28th of January. But if I completely count all of January, I'll need to post one next week as well to count the last couple of days of January within a Instagram reel, so I can tick that one off, which is really exciting as well. My next January goal was to get fresh air every single day, and looking at my habit tracker in my planner, let's flick back to this. I have got, I think it's the 4th column along, this one here. I've got a bit of fresh air every single day bar 1 day. So once again, just like spin, I'm going to count this one as a massive win. What I saw on, I've forgotten the channel name, but I saw her do her habit trackers, and she says a lot of the time she doesn't complete her habit trackers because the set bar is too high for her on some days, and I completely resonated with that. So she has a low bar and a high bar for every single one of her habits, i.e. one of her habits is to drink more water. She would like to get 2 glasses of water drunk every day, but that is her high bar. If she just has 1 sip of water a day, she still counts that habit as complete, but that is her low bar. So I thought that for me, in terms of fresh air, some days I just don't have time to go out for a walk every single day, go out and physically get fresh air. So my low bar was to open the window, get fresh air that way, or even just step outside into my garden for a little bit on my lunch break just to like breathe in the fresh air. So as long as I got some sort of fresh air every single day, I counted it. So that's kind of like how I did the habit, how I did that goal. I had a low bar of just opening the window and sticking my head out and getting like a couple of minutes of fresh air, or going for like a full-fledged walk, 45-minute walk with Mark on the weekends. So it really did vary the type of fresh air I got each day, but I got some sort of fresh air every single day, bar one, so I'm counting that as a win once again, because no one is perfect. The next goal I set myself in January was for Mark and I to organise our wills. We haven't done that one yet. We have started the process, or I have started the process. I started Googling kind of like how to start, how to write a will, where do you need to go. So I've done the research. I kind of know what our next steps are now. We need to get in contact with a solicitor so they can write it, because apparently mine and Mark's situation is the more complex situation, where we own a home but our names aren't the same, so we need someone else to write it. If you are married and you have a house and your name is the same, you can technically write your own will, called like a DIY will, because your name's the same. It's a really straightforward process, but because we're not married, our names are different, we're in a more complex situation, so we need someone else to write it for us. So at least I know the kind of like stepping stones now. So I do have a goal relating to this in February as well, but I kind of can't count this one because we didn't completely organise our wills, but we are on the right step to hopefully getting it done in the first half of the year, which is kind of like my big goal. The last kind of like goal slash task that I set myself in January was for Mark and I to get our passports renewed, and we have done this one. I'm so happy. Oh, it makes me so happy knowing that another step towards Disney is done and complete. We basically did them in January because we knew that the wait wouldn't be long to receive our new passports back, and we were correct. I think I got mine back in less than a week after sending it off, which is so exciting. We got our photos done one day at Tesco after doing our food shop. We sent it off the same day, and less than a week later I received mine back. So we definitely chose the right time of year to get our passports renewed, and I'm so happy that that task, a big kind of task, is now off our to-do list. So overall, I did very well in my goals in the month of January, which I'm happy about. Obviously, once again, I did keep them small, I did keep them concise, and I did only really focus on the things I wanted to truly focus on and knew that I would be able to achieve, because I didn't want to like put too much pressure on myself at the beginning of the new year. In terms of my habit tracking in January, I habit tracked my morning routine, my spinning everyday challenge, drinking 2 bottles of water, drinking my cranberry juice, getting fresh air, journaling and scrapbooking, flossing, stretching, posting on Instagram, reading, doing my night routine, and recording my 1 second a day. And overall, I'm pretty happy with how much I've managed to accomplish in the month of January. So having reflected on January, let's discuss my goals for February. So as I previously stated, I obviously rediscovered my passion of spin in the month of January, doing my 30-day spin challenge. So I don't want to get rid of spinning completely out of my routine again, because I've only just got it back into my routine, but I do want to explore a new kind of form of exercise, and that's kind of like yoga slash Pilates. So what I was going to do was to set myself another 30-day challenge of doing Pilates or yoga every single day in the month of February, following Yoga with Andrea's kind of like 30-day challenge that she does in January, but doing it in February instead. I have now decided that I don't want to lose spin out of my routine, so I'm hoping, this is my goal, my first goal for February is to do 5 Pilates slash yoga sessions a week with 2 spin classes a week as well. I think I'll most likely keep my Monday and Friday spin classes as 45-minute spin classes when I'm working from home, and then doing Pilates slash yoga Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully that can be accomplished. I would love that, because I want to start getting more into stretching, flexibility, and kind of like calisthenics work, which I think Pilates slash yoga is a good place for me to start. My next one is on the back of doing so well in posting 1 Instagram reel a week. I would like to start posting 1 Instagram grid post a week, and I do this with like shut eyes, like eek moment, because I know I'm not good at doing Instagram grid posts, but even if it's like, I don't know, maybe like a weekly roundup, not of my reading, but of like other things I do. But for that, I need to be good at taking pictures during the week, which I know I'm not good at. So I don't know how I'm gonna really focus in on this one, but I want to try. I want to try at least do like 1 reel a week, 1 Instagram post a week. That would be ideal. So I'm kind of adding to the goal and the habit that I created in January of doing 1 reel a week to adding a grid post on top of that, and that is kind of like a little thing called habit stacking, I believe. That for me just means that I know I can do one thing, let's see if I can add something else on top of that as well. So that is another goal for February. The next thing I would like to try and get me and Mark to do, because We used to do it all the time. I said this in my New Year reset as well. We used to go for weekly walks because we had an area that we absolutely love to walk around, and we just haven't found that in our new area yet. But I would like to do 3 walks with Mark across the month. That doesn't seem many, that's not even like one a weekend. So hopefully I can do that. It's just like when we have the time, our weekends tend to get pretty busy. February is quite a busy month for me in terms of weekends as well. So hopefully it's doable. I just want to get out more with Mark. I absolutely love walking with him. It's just such a nice way to disconnect from the world and reconnect with each other. So hopefully we can do 3 walks, even if they're just round the block. I don't care. 3 walks with Mark in the month of February. And the last kind of like fitnessy thing, health and fitness thing I want to do in February is in January, I took him to play badminton for his birthday. So I thought it'd be really fun to do that again in the month of February, just do it once and just have another kind of like little badminton session for the both of us, because we absolutely love playing badminton. And I want to not prioritize it in 2024, but like do it more often because it is really fun. So yeah, that is another goal of mine in February as well. Last kind of personal goal that I have is that I would like to journal daily in my A6 journal, which I keep right by my desk. This is the one that I started for the first time in 2024, and I was doing so well with it at the end of last year, so like Christmas, New Year, etc. Mark's birthday I managed to document in here, and then I kind of fell off the bandwagon with it because life just got hectic and I couldn't really think of anything to document in this book, because I was also scrapbooking, I was also doing my 1 line a day, I was also doing my 1 second a day, and I feel like it was just another kind of like repetitive kind of documentation of my life. So I want to journal every day in this notebook just for keepsake moments, whether it was a stressful day, whether it was a good day, whether it was a really mundane day, just talking about the weather, my feelings, I don't know. At the minute, this journal has been more of a memory capturing journal, and that's not why I brought it. I brought it for journaling. So hopefully I can journal every day in the month of February in this book. And those are all like my goals. I have some tasks that I'd like to complete in the month of February as well. And the first one relating back to organising our wills. I would like to contact a solicitor this month and get like the ball rolling with kind of figuring out how to go about writing a will, how much is it going to be, etc, etc. So hopefully that's something me and Mark can get the ball rolling on. Another boring one, and it's pretty straightforward, but I'd like to save another £200 towards my car, my future car. I'm currently saving up for a deposit on a PCP, spending all of this year saving up for it, so hopefully at the beginning of next year I can treat myself to a new car. So I'm saving another 200 quid this month. It's pretty self-explanatory. I know I'm going to get it done. I just like to write it as a goal anyway, so that is a goal for February. And then our final kind of task slash goal that me and Mark, I say me, but I know Mark will want to get it complete as well, is to finish our downstairs loo renovation. In my New Year reset, I think I mentioned that we wanted to get our kitchen renoed, and we were in kind of discussions with different companies on that, but we've realised it's just a little bit too expensive, a little bit too out of our budget for right now. So what can we do in the meantime that's a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to get done? So we decided to renovate our downstairs loo. I'm so happy with the progress. Mark is doing it all by himself, and he's absolutely smashing it, and I'm so excited to see the finished product. We picked a new colour, which is like a nice dark sagey green. We've got matte black kind of finishes on the tap and the mirror, and I can't wait to get like the shelf up and put some like decor on and get some like art pieces. So in the month of February, I'd like us, I say more Mark, to finish the downstairs loo, and I want to buy some artwork for it, buy the loo roll holder, buy the hand towel holder, buy some artwork, buy like a new hand soap dispenser, etc, and just kind of like buy the finishing touches to make that place like really our own, because it'll be the first time we do like a proper renovation in our house, which is really crazy to say that we picked the downstairs loo as the first thing and not a bedroom. But obviously the kitchen is out of our budget currently, and the bedroom isn't something that we want to prioritise because we wanted to do downstairs loo. So yeah, I'm really excited to get that one done, and that should be able to get finished in February. So those are all my goals for the month of February. Hopefully I'll be able to smash them just like I have with January, and I will pass you over to past or future Rachel for the next segment of this vlog. So there we have it. That is my January wrap up slash February reset. I really hope you enjoyed me combining these two things, because I know everyone loves a reset. I also still really like looking back on my wrap ups and the stats and all the things relating to my reading at the end of each month. So I hoped combining the two kind of made both things as enjoyable as one another, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what books you read in January, what books you hauled in January, how has your reading year started off? I would love to know it in the comments. Leave a love letter emoji down below because of my recent obsession with Divine Rivals if you got to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up and subscribe down below to see future content from me. I do anything from reading vlogs, monthly TBRs, monthly wrap-ups, and any other bookish content that you can think of. I usually have it on the channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any. And without further ado, I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.